Hey, everybody, and welcome to episode 127 of the Party Invite Show. I'm your boy Tegan, and I'm joined by Vilos.
Oh, hey, that's me.
Hey, it's just the two of us tonight. So we've got a party topic for you. The party topic is taking a little look at the dynamics of watching games versus playing them. But we'll get into that in a little bit. It's been on our brains since Extra Life's going on. We just came off of one weekend of Vilos streaming. We're going into another weekend of me streaming. It's really exciting, and I can't wait. I did stuff in prep for it all day. Boy, I have a lot of stuff lined up for that, and I'm really excited. But listen up, y'all. Let's give you something to smile about. We are a community that encourages positivity in all sorts of ways in gaming and outside gaming. This week, I wanted to say something that made me smile. Was this? It's been all over the news. It's been viral. Has nothing to do with games, but it's this convenience store, the least convenient store in the world. Do you know what I'm talking about? It's this 2 square meter. It's not very big, right? 2 square meter convenience store that's built into the sheer sheer wall of this cliff in China. It's 100. Let's see. I think it's 120 meters up.
That's not horrifying at all.
No, not at all. But if you climb from the bottom to the top, it takes an hour and a half. Because it's like a popular climbing destination. I mean, it's a huge cliff face. But someone built a convenience store with reasonably priced things into the side of the wall, and I think that's just incredible. Apparently, this area, it says visitors come to this area, which is what's this place called? The Shinuzai. I'm gonna say Shiniuzhi, Shinuzai. Scenic area is famous for its towering cliffs, deep canyons, and unique rock formations. It's also known for its glass bottom bridge, one of the longest and highest glass bridges in the world. Woo!
No, that is horrifying, but
Woo!
also thrilling. I would do that.
Yeah,
And
I
I
would.
hate heights. Like the videos of that are the things that fuel your nightmares, but also fuel your adrenaline.
Yeah, for sure. Like the fact that you would know with an asterisk that you're safe, really allows you to take like a crazy risk like that. I would also want to visit is it in Chicago? I don't know what city has the at the top of the building and has that like glass floor that people famously step on. Is that Chicago? I can't remember. Whoever lives in that city is going to be like those sons of bitches. They don't even know our biggest attraction. Um, but somebody will tell me. But that just sounds incredible to me. So this convenience store is tiny with normal prices on all of its things, but it gives a free bottle of water to any of the climbers climbing, and they can get food and snacks and stuff. But it's a tall climb. But I just thought this was so interesting. You see a picture of it, and it's just this tiny little box. It's this tiny little convenience store, just screwed into the side of this wall. It's incredible. But yeah, I've seen that all over the internet the past couple of weeks, and I wanted to shout that out. It doesn't look real, but it seems perfect. Having just talked about Jusant last week, and actually, Vilos, you'll be proud of me. I had 2 people at work ask me about indie games, and after I finally could remember a single game, because for the first minute I was like, oh god, I can't remember any indie games. I'm playing Elden Ring, but that's not an indie game. I'm playing Apex Legends, but that's not an indie game. Okay, finally, I've come up with one. And I got some people to download Jusant and Into the
Nice.
Breach. So proud of that. But
Hell
of
yeah.
course, Jusant is a rock climbing game, so I thought this was perfect coming off of that last week. But that convenience store seems like the exact slice of life thing that you'd see in a real indie storytelling game, right? Where it'd be like, this is a one of a kind in the whole entire world. Check out this little person's slice of life and what's going on here. I'll give it 2 years before we get a video game based off of this convenience store. But yeah, I thought that was fun. Just Google convenience store on the side of a cliff in China, and you'll find it. It's been everywhere. But yeah, so hope that made somebody else smile out there. I just thought that was cuckoo bananas. But yeah. Well, without any further ado, oh, actually, I do want to say, anybody in chat, if you would like to send anything into us for us to read online, the best place to do that is through our Discord, discord.gg/partyinviteshow. You can submit those anywhere on our server or directly to me or Vilos. But We'd love to hear your stories. So tonight we got a whole topic that we've been thinking about a whole lot, huh? It's it's a nuanced topic, and as the age of gamers continues to grow, right? So there are always every year there's going to be more older gamers than there were the year before because we're simply getting older. Our habits change, the amount of time that we have within our lives changes. Maybe we still dedicate the same amount of time to games, but maybe we play different ones, or maybe we're less competitive than we were when we were younger, or maybe we steer toward or away from certain games based on our life experiences or who we're sharing the couch or our internet space with. So today's topic is watching versus playing games. Let's see here. I lost my notes because I got so distracted talking about the the convenience store in China. Here we go. Okay, so the gaming world is so packed full with options that as gamers, we're kind of split into two different camps. There are plenty of people who can watch games and plenty of people who can play games. But typically, as you get older, you have limited time and you have to choose between one of those two things. So some of us move seamlessly between those two, but we want to talk about the pros and cons of kind of choosing a side there. I don't mean to make it like tribalism or anything, but the pros and cons of residing in one corner or the other. Why do people who played a lot when they were younger switch to watching games, and vice versa? Why do people maybe who watch games for most of their lives and then get older and realize that they actually want to take part in those? And where does all that stand? So, Vilos, where do you want to start here? We got a lot of stuff to discuss.
Yeah. Let's see. Hmm. What
Well,
about what about the what about the cons of game watchers so we can get the positive of game watchers out there after?
oh yeah, let's first say that anybody who watches video games
Yeah.
is a stupid idiot.
Yep.
Turn
All
off
these
this
people.
podcast right now. Actually, don't do that. I'm just kidding. Please stay. Please don't leave. Please don't leave. No, yeah, let's start with that because we got the pros and cons of watching, pros and cons of gaming or of playing. So if we start with the cons of watching, huh?
Yeah.
So let's see. Well, could we actually start? Why do people watch games? Right. 10 years
Mhm.
ago, there wasn't at all the market for watching games that there is today. I should say 15 years ago, maybe. Some people watched because they had the ability to watch on their phones. Some people watched because their friend was like, yo, tune in to me. I'm doing this weird thing called streaming, and it was kind of the
That's
Wild
what they're
West, like back when podcasting was getting started too. Nobody really knew what was going on. It was all new to everybody. We had been at this point playing games for years, but the idea, people will even today ask me, they're like, why would you watch somebody play a game? And of course, my retort is, why would you watch someone play football when you could just play football? It's because I'd rather watch interesting people play an interesting game. I don't, it's not as simple as I don't get the same enjoyment out of doing it myself. That's not always the point.
for
So
sure.
let's see. So if you're a person who exclusively watches games, that does come with a lot of cons. So if we start there, let's say the one that I'm the most nervous about when I go to watch people play stuff is that I'm always nervous of getting spoiled. I'm
Mm.
always nervous. I see a game. Let's say Inscription is a game that I love so very much. That is, it might be 12 hours long. I'm guessing it's been a while since I played it, but I couldn't watch a single moment of that game until I had beaten it all the way through because I'm very sensitive to spoilers, and I knew that if I went into this game that I loved the beginning of, as I was realizing how much I liked it, I was like, well, should I watch this? A lot of people are streaming this right now. Well, you remember the community manager over at Devolver? She was posting on the Devolver digital account and was like, "Hey, literally anything about Inscription is a spoiler, so instead I'll post a screenshot of the Twitch chat, and it's a bunch of people with emojis that are
Yeah.
just various versions of just like hands on your face, like in shock and disbelief, um, and that's
The typical
absolutely
experience.
right. Because with a game like that, people would watch somebody play a game like that because maybe they're not sure if it's a game for them, or maybe they know that it's not a game for them, but their favorite creator is playing it, and that will make it interesting. Um, I'm always so nervous of spoilers. So I was like, you know what? I can't even touch this thing until I know that I've completely bookended my single player experience. So once I did that, I love watching people play that game now. If I see anybody go live and I get that notification that they're playing Inscription, I am watching them. I watched a channel maybe 2 weeks ago that we like, certainly that I like. One of the two hosts of that show picked up the game for the first time, and I always have to be in chat now that I know a lot about the game to kind of to not what's the word I'm thinking of, to try to keep a lid on chat, to be like, yo, whoa, don't give this person too much information, stop it. Like, you, chatter, clearly know everything about this game, but the whole point of this game is discovery. It's just so
Hashtag fake mod.
fake mod, so be quiet. So that's its own kind of fun game. But another one would be Baldur's Gate 3. I have a long way to go in that game, and so I still have only watched people play who I know for a fact have not played past where I am. So that would mean that it's their first playthrough and that they're in the first act of the game. Otherwise, can't watch, not interested. I've already seen plenty of like various level spoilers throughout the internet, but if I'm gonna actually watch a stream, then I've opened the floodgates if I watch something past where I am, right? So that's always my biggest con for watching. It's the biggest thing I have to watch out for that'll turn me away from something is this going to spoil my experience if I plan to play it? So it's tough. Have you ever had anything spoiled for you that you remember, like
uh,
anything significant?
I've been trying to think of what has been spoiled. I feel like no, but I've gotten close. Like Ghost of Tsushima was one game that I did consciously decide. I was like, you know what? It was Tesla de Panda, and uh, she's really good at it. And I was like, this is a beautiful game. It sounds great. It looks great. The personality playing it, I love. Like, can't go wrong with it, right? But then I think it was probably the third or fourth stream, and I was like, oh, people are gonna start dying, and plot points are really gonna happen, aren't they? So like, um, I think it was one of the like top three main characters in the whole story died, and I was like, okay, that's where I stop.
Rip.
Thank you. And I walked out. It wasn't major. Like I didn't watch. She probably streamed at least 20 hours of it. I probably watched a solid 5 or 6 hours of those.
Mhm.
But it was still enough for me to be like, you know what, that was my dipping my toe in. I will eventually play it, and that was my point. Was that, you know, at the time I didn't have a PS5. I was like, I'm probably like a year away from getting a PS5 at that point. Um, and it was something that I knew I wanted to play. Absolutely knew I'd put some money towards it sometime, but it was way off. And sometimes you just got to scratch that itch. You got to feed yourself something that you like every once in a while. So
That's true.
that got me a little bit. And but that leads me to my con, is that if you do choose that path of being a watcher, your favorite creators may not always play a game that you want to watch. um, if I go into Icy Rain's channel and I expect to see Xenoblade Chronicles, nah, that's not gonna happen. There's different personalities will enjoy and be attracted to different games, and sometimes you just got to find that right creator.
Indeed.
Uh, and so, in the way of like Xenoblade, there's a very niche community. So sometimes it's just really hard to find exactly what you intended to look out for.
Mhm.
That's what I find, I think, most difficult personally, just because like my JRPG thing is very personal to me, and I play JRPGs isolated, and guess what? That's how most of us play them. So it's really awkward for those of us that are like, I want to watch somebody else enjoying something that I love so much, and then nobody ever streams it. It's like, oh,
Oh my
okay.
gosh, Vilas, you're also maybe unintentionally describing, I think, the the like introvert struggle of meeting people,
Hmm.
right? It's like I want to meet people, but I don't want to go outside. And the people I want to meet also don't want to go outside. you know. So it's like, well, what do we do? You know, it's the idea is that even with single player games, not just JRPGs, but like God of War Ragnarok is a game that when I play it, I would love to stream it, but logistically, it's not going to happen. Um, you know, I have a capture card. I could stream it from my PlayStation, but everything else is in the way. I'd rather play it on my couch. I'd rather play it on my own time, like probably even Saturday mornings for an hour, you know. Um, and if I did stream it, you know, I take forever to play games when I stream them, and I have a great time, but I'll never beat that game if I try to stream it. So it's just not going to happen. But you know, most people play single player. I mean, most people don't stream. Is the short of it. One of
Mhm.
the stats we saw, actually, what was the updated one that you read?
Yeah, the global active streamers, thought it was interesting, that Statista has a good chart from 2018 to 20 from January 2018 to September 2023. The number of Twitch streamers active went from 3 million to over 7 million in 5 years.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
You know, Odysseus said this in chat just now, and I wanted to point this out. You know, we're talking about watching and playing, and he's making a joke. He says there's a distinct lack of a pass option on this topic. You know, our friends over at Demo
Listen.
Duo, who play demos every week, they have the play watch pass system. You know, and as we were making this, I was like, I feel like if I was gonna make a play watch pass joke in the graphic for today's show, I probably should have asked before right now. But we're thinking about you. I see you guys in chat. Um, yeah, you know, so like a lot more street people are streaming than what a lot of the data showed. A lot of the data that we have is from 2018, or like started at least in 2018. I looked in 3 different websites, and that was the one year that they were all pulling information from. So, you know, fast forward a couple of years, and you got COVID, and a lot of people picked up games where uh, they suddenly needed a social outlet, and maybe they were streaming or maybe they were playing with streamers, because a lot of people will invite others into their community to play, especially multiplayer or party games. You know, not as often co-op games, but you might get a Modern Warfare streamer, a Call of Duty streamer who is like, hey, I'm playing with viewers, we'll do, you know, one round with 2 people and swap it out every time. Or Among Us, you know, has up to originally 10 and now I think 16 players, so hop in. You know, and a lot of people don't have that number of people to play with. You might have 4 friends who want to play Among Us, but it really is popping when you have like 7 or more. So uh, a streamer gives people an opportunity to get people together who are like, hey, normally you're not looking for a whole crew of people to play with, but come join me or come watch us, because you get that party atmosphere with games like Among Us, or even us playing Party Animals the other day. Um, it's really exciting, and a lot of people don't have that. But when something like COVID happens, where it changes people's habits dramatically, sometimes it's just temporarily, sometimes it sticks. But people certainly take stock of what they're looking for from their gaming experience. Some people gamed way more. Some people gained way less, gamed way less, and were instead baking sourdough bread and stuff. You know. Um,
A valid choice, though.
Indeed. You know, but everybody was kind of figuring out what in the world they're looking for in their use of time. I mean, we um, I think COVID really is an important part of this conversation, because it's changed so much of our lives and made us evaluate what our time is worth to us. So whether you have kids at home, whether you are working from home and are or are not doing that now, we've all got different things to think about and consider when we're figuring out how to make time for our personal lives and our work. You know, gaming is a hobby, and there is plenty of data out there that shows that spending time on your hobby makes you a better person, makes you a better family member, friend, community member. Because when you invest in yourself and you're happier and you build a skill set, even if that skill set is not immediately relevant to how you interact with people, you know, it's still going to improve. It's going to make you a more well-rounded person, or certainly someone who is better able to hone a skill, which is like a kind of jack of all trades, a general skill that is valuable throughout your entire life. You know, something I've enjoyed about streaming is that it gives me a social outlet to turn this thing that could otherwise be a single solo experience into a multiplayer experience no matter what. It doesn't matter if the game is only single player. It's suddenly a shared space, a shared digital space, and I absolutely love that. Of course, you mentioned 7 million people stream now. Yeah,
Yeah.
2023.
Yeah.
That's a lot of people, but it shows that people crave. Well, people stream for a lot of different reasons, but people crave those shared experiences. And in this age of digitalism, we have more opportunities than we've ever had before in the history of humanity to connect with people meaningfully online. There are plenty of meaningless ways to connect online as well, but but now I can talk to my friends on Discord. I can talk to them in chat as I'm playing a game, and we experience shock and awe and laughter in chat in real time. Um, but I want to say that as far as watching games, that doesn't always just mean watching people live, right? A lot of people are just
Sure.
watching reels. They just want to watch a 20-second clip of a new game to see if it's a surprise or if it meets their expectation. Some people watch full VODs of games where they'll watch an entire playthrough of, I'll just say this example again, God of War Ragnarok. Maybe you don't own a PlayStation and you can't play that game. Or maybe you simply don't have enough time for it. Maybe there's one game that you're playing. Maybe you're busy, you have kids, you've only got a few hours a week to game. Or you've got plenty of time to game, but it's difficult to juggle a lot of games at once. So you only want to play one game at a time. So you're going to play this one game over here and you're going to watch an entire playthrough on the side because maybe like if you're like me, I listen to a lot of streams, even though they're meant to be video content. Um, Sometimes I just want to hear what's going to happen in the story, but I don't want to invest 30 or 50 hours to make that happen. So that's a huge pro of watching a game, right? You get to experience this whole other thing that you don't have to spend time on. So like um, let's say I'm playing Overwatch with the community in here. At the same time, I could be watching a playthrough of an entire other game, and I'm going to be watching something. I've got two monitors on my PC. When you're on a PC, it's much easier to consume video content in a long form fashion. Short form is great on mobile, but long form, I got this whole extra monitor, so I'm going to watch something. So while I'm playing Overwatch, a game where it's endless, just like a lot of my roguelikes, I can watch an entire playthrough of Inscription, of a short 12-hour game. Soon I want to play Sifu, but that's another game where if I wanted to, I could have already watched a whole playthrough of that game. I want to say it's like 10 hours long. Did you beat that game?
If you're good enough.
Yeah, if you're good enough. Yeah.
It plays so much like a roguelike that 10 hours, whew.
Sure.
Yeah, I it would definitely take a bit. I mean, I'm gonna say though, with your point, it brings up what is a con for both watchers and players though. FOMO, fear of missing out. Like having all this community that you love and that you are getting accustomed to in this digital age, like there's going to be those pressures. It's like, okay, do I have to say yes when everyone inevitably asks me if I played Elden Ring? The answer is no, but for most of you, the answer is yes.
You say
Um,
most. I mean, some of us played it. When my friends asked me the other day what I was playing, I said that I was playing Jusant, and I have not played Jusant at all. But I said I did because I know quite a lot about it now,
see,
and
there's
they aren't
that's the
widely.
awkward conversations that you have though. Like the oh no, I didn't play, but I watched it.
Yeah, well, yeah, just leave
And
that part out. If they ask, then I'll be truthful. But you know, Cram says, "I thought you had integrity." Well, this is the con of watching this video game content is you really
Mhm.
learn about the people you thought you knew. Um, yeah, but I mean, really, FOMO of like for me, well, and for both of us, for so many people in our community, imagine how big our backlogs are. It's just I'm never gonna beat some of the games on my backlog. I'm hoping that I even start some of the games on my backlog, literally ever, because it will always be growing because there will always be new games out. Um, so really, it's like if I get to watch people because I have FOMO, because I'm like I know. Okay, so I don't really like playing Exoprimal that much. Only played it a couple times, but I like watching you play
Shame.
it. I know. Well, it is a
Yeah.
shame, but we got people in our community you can play with. But I like watching you play it, so I don't have to miss out because even the Resident Evil games, I'd say as well. I really like
Mhm.
watching the Resident Evil games. I do want to play 7. Maybe I'll play 8 someday. We'll see. But all the other games, for me, those are watch games. I am totally interested in them. I just don't think I want to play them myself. It's not that I think I'd be bad at them or that I think the quality is in a place that I don't like or anything like that. It's simply that I think I enjoy watching them so much. Like as someone who does play a lot, um, there's a freedom in not being the one with the controller in your hand.
Yeah.
If I'm watching you play Exoprimal, I don't have to spend the time to get good at it. You're already pretty good at it, so great. I get to watch. It's like the football analogy I
Mhm.
mentioned earlier. I'd rather watch a good person play this game and kick ass. And when I donate $5 to Extra Life and get you to switch to a mech you've never played, you can still do really well. Because if I picked the game up, I would struggle and I'd struggle, and then eventually I'd be fine. But it'd take me a few games to get there, but I get instant gratification if I just ask you to do it.
That's true.
Um, I'd even say I didn't plan on talking about this, but my partner and a friend started up Tales from the Borderlands the other day, the Telltale Choose Your Own Adventure Borderlands game. And it was great. And a few times they tried to hand me the controller to make a decision. And I'm like, no, 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 this ain't my thing. This ain't, I'm watching. I finally get to give my partner back for all the times I tried to get her to play something. And she's like, nope, nope, it's not, stop. I can't take it. I'm allergic to the controller. Um,
My hands are full
yeah, my hands
of
are,
snacks. I don't nachos.
you know what? That's kind of a real problem in this household is handing someone with full hands an object or food. But it really was funny that like in a situation like that, I love being in the passenger seat. Like I love playing plenty of games, but in cases like that, I'm like, nope, this is your problem. You gotta make the decisions, and you gotta live with them. And I'm just gonna enjoy it from the sidelines. But yeah, so now I'm gonna get to see that game play out for real because we actually tried to start that game. We played the first hour and a half maybe of that game. I don't know, like 6 years ago. I don't know when it came out, but it was we tried a long time ago. But I'd only played halfway through the first Borderlands game. So I was like, I think this would be better if I knew what was going on. So now we're finally at that point because she has played through a bunch of the games. Um, so that's fun. But yeah, talking about FOMO and all that stuff, I am excited to be able to backseat them, um, and kind of enjoy that from the sidelines. Big perk. Big perk. Honestly, living with somebody who has different tastes than you, or
That too.
even streaming with you, Vilos, and with Sid, we all have very different tastes. So I love being able to sit back and just eat the popcorn with everybody else, instead of always being the one playing. Which again, I love. I love playing, but there are games that Sid likes, and I'm just not. I don't want to play, but I want to watch them play. You
Yeah.
know. And tonight, after this podcast, I'm going to play Triangle Strategy, a game that you love very much, and that I've had
Hmm.
sitting in my Steam library for a long time. But I wouldn't have picked that up if it wasn't for how much you love that game. So, I'm going to convert from a watcher to a player on this one. But what else do we got? We got being spoiled, FOMO. Oh, you got one written here that says, sometimes you'll watch somebody play a game, and maybe you only mean to watch 1 hour or 2 hours. And the next thing
Yeah.
you know, you're 5 or 10 hours in, and now you're far enough where you're like, well, should I even buy the game? I've watched half of the game already. I guess I got to stick
Yeah.
it through. And it's, you watched the stream, you watched the YouTube video because you were interested. But now, that was me with watching a Metal Gear Solid playthrough.
Hmm.
I watched enough and then I was like, actually, it's better this way. It's better if I just sit back. Um, there's a lot of cool stuff here, but I think I'd rather watch them discover it because at this point, I'd have to play through 6 hours of content just to get to the new stuff that I haven't seen.
True.
Um,
I mean, and in my reasoning for putting it down too was like, it was not necessarily a spoiler thing. I could have taken that way, but I can kind of turn my brain off on things whenever a stream's going, you know.
yeah.
But I was watching Syra play Final Fantasy 16, and I just sat there. I was chilling really good. Um,
You were chilling really good.
I was just
You
in
need a
that spot
t-shirt.
that I needed to be. Yeah, and she was just going and like right as she started the stream, I was like, "Oh yeah, you're like maybe 2 hours ahead of me." And then I watched for like 4 hours, and I'm like, "Oh, okay."
Oops.
And so like that actually kind of delayed my personal playthrough because I'm like, I gotta forget that that existed, that those things happen in the story.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Mm-hmm.
I have to distance myself just enough so I can get back to it when I actually intend to play it, which now I think I'm actually like an hour away from that. And it might have sent me back a little bit on the backlog a little bit.
Well,
But yeah, that it is what it is.
yeah. There's some games that have huge, okay, so The Last of Us 2 is a game that once you get to a certain point, you can watch, I don't know, uh a third to half of that game maybe without having like super ultra big spoilers. With the exceptions there. But once you get past a certain point, you just can't watch it at all. But it's tough because if you're trying to figure out what to avoid, by trying to figure out what to avoid, you can accidentally spoil yourself. So it's like right now, the new Marvels movie came out, like the
Yeah.
Marvels.
Oh my god.
It's out right now. People are in the theater watching it right now, I think. And I got to be careful because some stuff is leaked. I've avoided the final trailer. I'm trying to dodge spoilers, but they're out there, and um, there's only so much you can do. And if I'm not actively thinking, oh, right, I need to avoid spoilers, then I'm just going to scroll and scroll and scroll and then accidentally find something that I didn't want to see. Um, and games can be like that because, like, if I, on one hand, if I'm not thinking about the spoiler, then I'll accidentally find it. But if I go anywhere that if I try to find more information or even look up like reviews for the movie, right? Like if I was
You,
like, "Hey, how's the movie doing?" Even like the thumbnails on the search engine will be like, "Oh my gosh, you can't believe what's going to happen." And it'll be like a
you're gonna get about
thumbnail
25
ex-
Screen Rant specific images that are
and
just gonna ruin it
comicbook.com. I'm like,
all. Yeah.
"Cool, I'm glad you put
Yeah.
the entire spoiler in the thumbnail so I couldn't not see it."
Yeah.
Um gosh, those websites frustrate me. But yeah, it's a real struggle of watching. This a lot of people who don't watch games would be like, well, duh, that's why I don't watch games, and it's a big reason not to, because if you don't put in the time to make sure that you're consuming the right content or that you're in the right area, right, where there's not going to be spoilers, if you don't have time to do that, then oops, I just ruined this game for me. This huge spectacle of a game with like people are always talking about how good the story is, and oops, I just tuned in right when the big story beat was happening that you're not supposed to see for 15 hours in. It can be tough. So yeah, there's lots of stuff like that. Um, we've gone down this list of the cons. Um, let's talk about more of the pros of watching. Why do people like us watch so many
Oh
games,
baby.
right? And there are a lot of I almost said there are a lot of pros, or certainly the magnitude of the pros are what makes it so worth it. So the
Yeah,
first one you've got here is that you can be more frugal with game purchases. Oh yeah,
absolutely.
baby. We have wonderful things like Game Pass and demos on Steam that allow us to try out games before we buy them. But for everything else, if you don't have the right system to play something, maybe all you have is a PlayStation, you can't play Starfield. If all you have is a PC, you're not going to have access to Switch titles. And you can apply this to a bunch of different situations, but if you don't have access to the way to play a game, then you are completely blocked off from a whole segment of the market that maybe you're not watching it, or maybe you can't play those games because you can't afford it. Maybe you don't have the time, or any number of reasons. Maybe you bought a Nintendo Switch, but your partner is playing it all the time, so you can't get your hands on it or something like that. But when you're able to watch people play games either for a brief amount of time to get an idea of it or to watch the whole thing, you just saved yourself 20, 40, $70. That's pretty good, and you were watching them for free, probably. That's great. If you've got the time, I mean, I could watch an entire playthrough start to finish of Red Dead Redemption 2. That game is like 80 hours long, maybe. It's huge. But if I didn't want to pay the full price when it came out, 60 or 70 bucks, or even spend the time to do that now, um, I can just experience it in the very best way. And also, as someone who gets really distracted all the time, they're gonna play it faster than me, probably, which is just more efficient. It's just efficient for me to watch other people play, um, for the sake of you know, progress, for science. What's a game that you were glad that you watched, Vilos? That you were like, you know what? Either you were glad you watched it because you were like not gonna buy that game, or you were glad you
Mhm.
watched it because you were like, oh man, this was better this way. Is there one that
I
sticks out to
mean,
you?
there are a couple that stick out to me. I would say it probably between Final Fantasy 14, which I absolutely have zero intention to ever play, as well as Diablo 4. That's and it's both pretty much the exact same reason. It's both the hour cost that it would cost me, the full price of Diablo, the subscription of Final Fantasy, blah blah
Yeah, yeah.
blah. But I mean, so many content creators will have hundreds and sometimes thousands of hours in both of those, and it's cheaper on my wallet and my brain and my body. Like
Mm-hmm.
there's just such a commitment to any of those, and a lot of people would say the same about the JRPGs that I play. But as Chirp says, oh wait, that's me.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, those two are my biggest ones that stick out easy,
yeah.
and I fully don't intend to give any money to Activision for any of that. So
Sure.
it is what it is. Again, um,
Uh,
so I think that there's so many good things as far as the frugality of it, that sometimes it's just not having to spend the full physical price. Even I can decide if it's a little bit more worth my time to be a digital purchase for whenever it's 75% off
mhm.
versus full price
Yeah.
physical. So that's another part of the frugality of it.
Yeah, I watched the first game I ever watched start to finish that I did not play myself was Lord Chrome when he was first starting out streaming. He streamed Jedi Fallen Order. Is that the first one?
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, yeah.
well, clearly had an impact on me. No, it was yeah, Jedi Fallen Order. Watched it from start to finish. I couldn't watch him live, but I went and watched the VODs every single time. And I loved it. It was great, because that was a game that I could tell I liked a lot of aspects of it. It combined different aspects of Star Wars and Metroidvania things and like choose your own powers, all this stuff. Um, oh, what's up, Chroma Chat? And I loved it. I had never watched a game start to finish before. I'd watched plenty of parts of games. I've watched the beginning of a lot of games, especially, or little bite-sized bits. I play a lot of small bits of a lot of games usually, unless it's one of my roguelikes or like Overwatch or something that I revisit. But I'd never watched one all the way through, and I love that because it saved me. I mean, at the end of the day, lots of perks from watching that, but it saved me from trying it before I bought it, or paying for it before I knew if I'd like it.
Hmm.
Um, but that's like a lot of money. It was a brand new game, but I got to watch it shortly after it came out, I think, and saved me that full purchase price, and I watched him for free, a free 99. But yeah, that's the one that sticks out to me as like the first time I was like, damn, okay, this was doable. This was totally easy. And I did it. I watched while I was doing other things. So like, we had it up on the TV. Usually I watch most streams on my computer here, but at the time we would just put up the Twitch app on PlayStation and we'd put on the VOD and I'd fold laundry or whatever else I needed to get done. So it was nice to have as a companion the way that people put on shows uh, as like background. I was able to do that with a Twitch stream. And in fact, I prefer to have Twitch as a background thing because while you're watching people live, you have the option of either being social and interacting in chat and affecting the stream in real time or sitting back, lurking, not having anything to do with nothing. Nobody knows you're there, and you're just back for the show. But as someone who loves online social engagement, I love the ability to jump in and be a part of the show, not just watch it. Of course, when I was watching Chrome, it was VODs. The gameplay had already happened, so I couldn't affect that. But But I love that kind of versatility that allows me as a viewer to still feel like I'm participating in some way. I'm not playing the game, but sometimes I can affect gameplay. Like some streamers. Let's see. Another thing you got written here is that certain content creators that you like, new, familiar or brand new, will breathe life into aspects of a game that you wouldn't have cared about when you played, right? So some of that is like, I like role playing in games. I didn't like that as much when I was younger, but I kind of love the immersion that comes from role playing your character in games like Project Zomboid, for example. It's a game where it's just a sandbox. There aren't really objectives of any kind. You try not to die, and there are lots of ways to get better at that. But the game doesn't really teach you a lot of stuff, and there's no goal, there's no end game. You just survive. So with a game like that, when I watched Twitch streamers who were really good at role playing and had a community that they trusted, where other people in the game world were doing the same thing, so you had these great interactions. It wasn't just one person was good at role playing. You had people, who were friendly or hostile to each other based on the situation that you wouldn't ever get without role playing, that you would never get if you were on your own. And so to watch those people was awesome. I remember watching these two people play on a community server of Project Zomboid, where everyone's just kind of doing their own thing. And if you want to make friends, you have to like go find people in the game and, do what you would do in the end of the world apocalypse and, maybe barter, maybe find some reason that you guys should be friends. And so watching these two people roll around in a car, try to like keep each other's spirits up, like pep talk each other, be like, oh, so what happened? What did you do before the apocalypse? And just kind of make up this stuff. That's one of my favorite parts of Dungeons and Dragons, of tabletop role playing games. And so to see that transferred into the gaming world, when you've got a lot of people playing, in D&D, you're sitting at the table with your friends. Even if you're playing digitally, it's essentially the same thing. When you watch a bunch of people do that online, it's really something special. It's a similar thing with like social deduction games, whether it's Among Us or Deceit is another one. I think the second game is maybe almost released here soon. I think our friend Deadpool's playing that. Those are games where you as the players can decide how much you want to role play your characters, right? Are you just players playing the game, or are you on this space station with someone and you are just checking the screen, shooting down asteroids? Because if you don't focus on those asteroids, they're going to blow up the ship. And that's why you didn't see what was going on in the hallway out there. It's this fun, fine line, or I should say it's not a fine line. It's this fun, very blurred line where you get to see people kind of flex those creative muscles a little bit. And watch. It's like watching people do improv, and wanting to watch people play improv doesn't mean that you want to do improv. Seeing the ways that people can be so creative using the same tool set that you have, maybe they're playing a game you've already played, but holy crap, they're doing these voices so well, or they picked up on some references in the writing that you completely missed, Odysseus and I are playing through Wasteland 3 right now. The writing is great. It's very funny. It's nonstop jokes, but they're not always jokes that are... It's not always obvious what the thing is referring to, but that's exactly why watching someone else experience it as well is so special, because other people are going to be like, oh, wow, that was, when this corrupt cop came into the place and tried to shoot us all up and then finally died. In his dying breath, he said, also you're in Colorado, because this matters. He, in his dying breath, he says, you must respect my authority, which is of course a South Park reference.
Wow.
It's Cartman.
I wouldn't have expected that in Wasteland. That's funny.
Yep. And it's just full of surprises. But if if you've never watched South Park before, would it gone over your head and you wouldn't have known it. So it's not like you would have missed out. But if you're watching somebody who's really up on pop culture, they're going to just pick up what this game is laying down and make it even more enjoyable than it would have been otherwise. So there's just so much to enjoy of watching a streamer really thrive through either knowledge or their charisma or whatever, or their intelligence, for using tabletop stats here. But yeah, I just love watching different people play even the same game because they'll tackle it in totally different ways. You know, you watch somebody play a game, maybe it's strict gameplay. They're just the facts, right? They're just playing through the game, normal as you would. Maybe they're not even talking to chat or anything. They're just here to play a dang video game. But you watch somebody else, they do the exact same thing, and it's very, highly produced. Maybe they've got a bunch of people in the back seat, almost like a Mystery Science Theater 3000 situation, the peanut
There's like
gallery.
10 PNGs like on screen at the same time.
But it's a
Yeah.
single player game, and you're like, what the
Yeah.
hell's going on in here? But that stuff is really exciting, and it's the type of thing you can only get when someone has turned this single player experience into either an interactive or a social environment. Uh, is there anything you've watched besides like Among Us, which we've played and streamed? In fact, we even streamed it for Extra Life a few years ago. Uh, are there any games like that that have stuck out to you as far as like a social thing where you're like, wow, this ensemble really sells this thing? You know what I mean?
I mean, I am gonna shout out just like Chrome did. I mean, our playthrough of Pentiment was pretty fun, and I think anybody that would have watched it would have found some enjoyment in it. We kind of did a little bit Looney Tunes style with some of the voices. We went a little bit out there.
At one point it
Um,
said that
you
the
know.
characters were like singing. It's like, oh, he's like, you're singing the words, and Deadpool and I are like, okay, you want to hear singing the words? We just went completely, it's like rolling a nat one, but going all in.
Mhm. Yeah,
It was
you
great
do it
stuff.
with fervor. That's the difference. But I mean, yeah, there's so many games that lend themselves to it. Even I mean, it's not my field of view, but like if we looked up the number of GTA role players right now, I'm sure we'd find 1,000 streams easy.
Yeah,
And that's not something that existed like 3 years ago, something like that.
right. People are like, I don't know what it's like to smoke weed in real life, but in Grand Theft Auto, check me out.
I'm gonna deal it. I'm gonna smoke it. Like
They're like,
what?
look, I can take shots. Yo, it's role playing, baby. Yeah, watching that, we I feel like I want to Red Dead Redemption 2, the online mode. I've given it a shot like 4 times. I just I don't. It's not for me. There's not enough of what I'm looking for to enjoy. But when we played a couple times around Christmas, there was so much stuff where I was like, oh my gosh, this world is like popping right now. I wish there were more players that I knew who were here to enjoy it. Like going into a saloon on Christmas Eve, here after I think it was after we moved up to Seattle. So it was our first Christmas, where we didn't see anybody. We didn't see family or friends or anything. And we're in one of the saloons in Red Dead, and on the player piano, they're playing Christmas songs. Like I'm like, oh my gosh, are you serious? So we just had the player piano going, and Lizzie and I just walked around the apartment, and we're doing holiday stuff, getting ready for like a friends thing the next couple days. I think that was when Lizzie was cooking a bunch of stuff out of the Elder Scrolls cookbook. Now that I think about it,
Nice.
but it had such a social vibe to it. I was like, oh man, I really wish I had people to share this digital space with right now. But that's when
Mhm.
I should have just turned on a stream. Afterwards, I should have been like, all right, I'm sure there's a Red Dead person in one of these Christmas saloons right this exact moment, whatever time of day it is.
Yep.
I just got to find them, you know. And then what? Let's see. What have we not covered? The pros of playing video games. I can't think of any.
Oh yeah, that's
Yeah,
way out
yeah.
of left field
I
there.
I only play uh I only play video games because I'm contractually obligated. So
I mean, the pros are definitely obvious, like
have fun.
experiencing things firsthand. Yeah, lived experiences. You can be the content creator. You did touch on that.
Whoa.
Crying at
Role
the
playing
end because it's beautiful, and
because you're not on
no
camera
no
and
one
you.
has to know that. Yeah, you're just doing it all by yourself. Those are some pretty big pros, and I think it's pretty obvious that like
And you don't have to
everybody
be a
here loves video
pro
games.
to enjoy video games,
Aha, you don't have to get sweaty. Yep.
but you can if you'd like. That's your thing. Um,
But then
well,
there are cons. I mean,
okay, a con here of play of actually streaming games. So being the one to play a game. So a lot of the games that I want to play, I want to stream. I don't want to play them unless I'm streaming. So like Gunbrella is only like 5 or 6 hours long, but I don't really want to play more of it unless I'm streaming. Of course, I tried to stream it one time recently, and yikes, I got so frustrated that I just switched games because that game has a struggle where you've heard people say that when you get older, video games should really have an adult option where it's like, hey, remind me how the hell I play this game. Remind me what the hell was going on. Because I haven't played this game in 6 months, and and I'm all these hours into it. I'm not restarting, but I have no idea what's going on. And that's how I felt loading up Gunbrella, where I was like, I don't know if I'm supposed to go left or right. And I spent like at least 20 minutes going the wrong way the whole time until I was like, okay, now I'm pretty sure that the right way is to the right, but now I don't want to play this game anymore. And if I wasn't streaming, I wouldn't have been so frustrated. I would have just wandered around and it would have been no big deal. But I have the pressure of wanting to actually play the game instead of just wandering around in the wrong direction the whole time. And that was really frustrating. And I know that doesn't apply to everybody. That's a streamer problem for sure. But that was tough. And that wouldn't have happened if I hadn't waited so long between play sessions. Because since I don't want to play it unless I'm streaming and can share it with my pals, then there's a lot more time in between my sessions. I don't make as much progress during my sessions because I'm chatting to people and making jokes and stuff. And that can be tough. So I'm like a few hours into a lot of games, you know? But I also have trouble finishing games anyway. So like another con of playing a game versus watching it is I rarely finish games. I mean, seriously, almost never. Most of the games I play are games that go forever. I don't know if I'm ever going to see the end of Noida, but that game rules and I'll lose on it forever. I mean, it took me years to beat Spelunky 2, literal years. And I finally beat it on New Year's Eve with like 3 hours left on the clock. But that was a tricky one because it was like, I don't want to watch streamers because I don't want to get spoiled, but I'm never going to beat this damn game, even though I love it. So I'm glad that I finally did, but it was a struggle because like that's a game with a high skill check, where it's like you're only going to see the game if you are good enough. A game like Hades or even like Elden Ring, sure, they can be challenging at certain points and over a certain amount of time, but the more you play them, you're guaranteed to get stronger. You simply by investing more time, you will increase your likelihood of success. But a game like Spelunky is not like that.
Some games are about luck.
Sometimes, if it's about RNG, I mean, a lot of people stopped playing Hearthstone because they didn't like how random stuff was. That's actually what my favorite part of that game was. But that was another game where I like to stream it, or not stream it. I like to watch it as much as play because sometimes I know that I'm never going to be that good. In most games, I don't actually care about being that good. I care about like trying new things and kind of doing ridiculous things, even if I know it's going to lose me the game. And that's just how I like to play. But I know I'm never going to be great. So I'd like to watch people who are great and have the ability to actually follow through and finish games because I just love variety. I just love playing a ton of things. So I rarely see the end. So yeah, a con of only playing is you can only see as many games as you have time to play. Maybe you don't have a lot of time to play. Maybe you're like me and you just, have less interest in finishing a game and more interest in trying a new one. That's actually, I'd say, like a con of subscription services that, whether it's PlayStation or Game Pass or anything else, when you've got all of these games to play, I'm less incentivized to finish any of them. And instead, it's like, oh, this month, this one's out. Oh, but this game's going to take 40 hours to beat. But I'm not going to finish that before the next round of games comes out. So
For sure. And I mean that also puts it into the category of physical and or digital space. That's another con you have to factor in whenever you're dealing with these games and actually wanting to play all of them. Like I think I've got less than 10 games on my PC, I believe. Maybe 12 if I'm really pushing it.
oh what's that feel like?
Um I mean, that said, I actually have I recently bought a 500 gigabyte Switch card, so
Oh yeah, baby.
I've got at
Load them up.
least 60 things on the Switch
60.
digitally.
You have so 60 things on
So
your Switch, but your PC, you're
yeah,
like only 10
yeah,
games at a time.
compression, my dudes. That's the deal. But yeah, the physical and digital space is a big thing there because I have about the physical collection that I want size wise, but at the same time, I'm sitting here like, okay, well, since I want to make some exact purchases, I want to make a very specific collection. I actually kind of need to get rid of some things because I want to move. I want to get to a place where I'm confident that I can move in a minimalistic and very quick way. And sometimes you just start gathering too many games and
Indeed.
you get ahead of yourself. But again, that's part of why I do have that backlog mission, but not everybody does because it just gets overwhelming.
It's intimidating. I mean, I look at the length of the games that you play, and as someone who struggles to finish games, there's just no way. And we joke, but like it does make the JRPG genre difficult when it's like, hey, the big part of gameplay that unlocks after 10 or 20 hours, that's when it gets great. And I'm like, that's awesome, except I can barely beat games that are 5 hours long. And that's just a preference thing, but it does, like, what's the game I downloaded? Loop Hero. Loop Hero is an idle game, and I specifically have been looking for games, or even Mini Motorways is a good one. You have to kind of pay attention. I mean, both games you have to play them, but you can idle them. I can put them on one monitor and sort of play them while I do something else, either literally play another game, or usually I'll do that like while I'm watching a Twitch stream or while I'm editing something or whatever, reading articles even. And it's perfect for me because it's just the right amount of low commitment where I am still playing it and it is rewarding, but it doesn't require a whole lot of focus. I would even say, since lately we've been playing a lot of Baldur's Gate 3 and Wasteland, which are very similar games where you have to be paying attention, full attention to the game 100% of the time. If you're not paying attention to the game's not moving forward. And if you're playing with other players, you're that means you're a bad player at the table because you're holding up everyone else who is fully invested in the game. So like I loaded up Elden Ring recently because I'm like, you know what? The moment I want to just like check out, I can just put my controller down and nothing usually nothing's gonna show up and just murder me as long as I'm not moving. Or I could go over here to a safe spot and just set the controller down. But it doesn't it allows me to play without focus at all. I can just play for a little bit and then literally get out of my chair and it's no problem. But with a game that, Overwatch, where you're constantly bouncing between games, or Baldur's Gate, when you're playing co-op, where if I'm not playing, I'm holding other people up. That amount of focus can be a hindrance where I'm like, oh my gosh, just someone who really likes to multitask, like literally all the time, whether I'm listening or watching something on the side. It makes those full focus games kind of difficult for me where I kind of hit a threshold. It takes a while to get there, but I eventually hit a threshold where I'm like, I can't takes no more. I just need a game that allows me to barely play it. Like, give me a game that practically plays itself.
You got to get some visual novels in your life, man.
I should.
That's what that's about.
I should. What was I just playing? Oh yeah, Scarlet Hollow. That was another one of the
Yeah,
indie games
there
I
you
could
go.
finally remember the name of. I'm very, very interested in going back to that for that exact reason. So, um, what else we got? Is there anything else to cover? We've covered a lot of ground here.
I mean, yeah, we went over it, and just like the only thing on the cons of game players that I still had left was just like your wallet may never forgive you if you go out there and try to play every game that you want to play. Um, like I do highly recommend for those of you that are trying to find that balance in your life, find your budget, figure out exactly, even if you're maybe not doing a monthly or weekly budget or anything like that for yourself. Just go into the past, figure out you've probably got the receipts. You probably went on Amazon. You probably went on some online store or something. Get those receipts, check it out just a little bit. Like I went back last week and I found that I have spent a little bit over $2,200 on physical games this year.
This year?
Which, thinking back, it's like, okay, maybe that's a little bit much, but
I mean, people
knowing
spend
the
a lot of
games
money
that I
on a
played,
lot of things. For some people
yeah.
it's their cars. For some people it's, you know, whatever they're expensive. Maybe they like painting, and painting supplies aren't cheap.
Mhm. Like, just because of what I go after collecting, collection wise, some of those first day purchases are going to be the best time to get them, because sometimes those games just jack up in price immediately.
Yeah, if they're limited
Um,
run.
yeah, like that, the Final Fantasy Pixel remaster. I got it for 80, and I think on Amazon the last time I checked it was going for like 125. Pretty much immediately after I got it.
Yeah.
So yeah, the wallet may never forgive you, but at the same time, that's also kind of a personal perk, a personal pro, if you will, if it helps you define your daily budget, your daily existence, as far as how what gaming means to you in that space.
If it makes you happy.
That's right.
Okay, so as we wrap this up, there were two articles that I read when thinking about this topic that I think are really great. The first one I'm going to tell you about is a Wired.com article. It's titled "Can People Still Play the Same Games as They Get Older?" I really like this. Oh, hold on, we got a fire truck going by. Huh? Huh? Yeah. So this one
I hear Navi too.
is actually she's sleeping over here. She's brave now. She sleeps through all sorts of sounds. It's great. She used to, well, whatever. Now that it's cold, she loves it. The windows are closed. It's a lot quieter. But this Wired.com article covered a bunch of stuff. You should look it up. It's short and worth reading. But it talks about a bunch of different things, from reaction times, especially, but how older gamers stack up to others in especially like a competitive nature. So what this talks about is in two different articles. There's one study that it cited that was saying that gamers tend to peak in their reaction time specifically around the age of 20. You can pick some years on either side of that, but it's about 20 years old that you're at your peak. Once you're above the age of about 25, well, everybody, it's all downhill from there. It's, esports, like at the top tier of competition, just like in a lot of sports. Once you're over the age of, well, I'm just pulling 25 out because that's what gamers are. I couldn't tell you. I was going to say that maybe 25 is the age of football players, but I think it's like 35, right? Is it
The peak for football players is 25 to 27.
27? Yeah. So yeah, so
Yeah.
like when quarterbacks are like 35 years old, it's like, oh man, take them
They're the
out,
good ones.
creaky bones.
Yeah.
But this says you peak in your 20s as far as reaction time. Your reaction time will slowly go down. Markedly. There's an increase, or there's an increase in the decrease. Your reaction time will markedly decrease more quickly when you're about 40, and then again when you're about 60. But what this said, so one of the things it talked about is Aim Lab, which is a tool that collects a lot of data from people who play shooting games. So one of the things that it collects is age. So it stated, what they discovered was that while accuracy across games is pretty much consistent across age, so as you get older, you tend to stay exactly as accurate as you were, or as anyone else is across any age range. It's the reaction times and how long it takes you to achieve that accuracy that changes. So if you're playing a competitive game, if you're playing Call of Duty or Overwatch, Apex, pick your poison here, it's going to take you a little bit longer to line up those shots as you get older, which leaves it up to you how competitive you want to be. Studies have shown that as you get older, gamers tend to be less competitive. But if that's your favorite type of game, there's plenty of room for you no matter what age you are. And while the reaction time as you get older may hold you back a little bit, there was an argument in this article that talks about crystallized intelligence, which is the idea of establishing knowledge through experience. So that just because you don't have as good reaction time, as much speed as a younger gamer, your encyclopedic knowledge of years of experience, depending on how long you've been playing, can actually still help you out. Maybe there's some sort of competitive edge that you remember from years ago that you can take with you into a new game. Maybe you're just really familiar with whichever game you play and the pool of knowledge that you have. Whether, I mean, you could take this away from shooters and apply it to anything else. Let's say that you're really good at Magic the Gathering or Hearthstone or Marvel Snap. If you just really know that game really well, you don't need to think so quickly as long as what you're thinking about is more valuable. So if you are more familiar with the game, there's no substitute for experience. So just because you're getting older doesn't mean you're really at a disadvantage. You just got to use the tools that you have to the best that you can. So what does this say? This says that this isn't going to come as a surprise to anybody, but when you practice the same thing over and over, you're going to get better at it. Lots of games have you doing the same thing over and over, and that doesn't mean just like press X to vault over this wall. It means that you're going to find yourself in a lot of situations where the same, how quick until you can click that head if you're playing a shooter. How quickly do I need to react to the situation? If I'm walking through this door and somebody comes in from the other side of the room, what's the first thing I do? And reaction speed is part of that, but having good practice and having that muscle memory is also going to be important too. In the context of our discussion here, as people do get older and they tend to have less time available to play, it's up to each of us to decide, is this a game that I'm going to continue playing to try to be good at it? And if I don't care about being good at it, am I playing to win? Am I just relaxed and playing for fun? Or would I rather watch a game like this and watch those people who are really good at it because I don't have the time to get good? I think even though I spend a lot of time playing games here in my life, I've probably peaked in Overwatch 2. I have probably already been the best I will ever be. Most of the time now when I play, I'm just goofing around. Even when I'm playing to win, I can feel that I don't have the muscle memory that I had before, where like I'll make a dumb mistake and the instant, even before I've made it, I can already tell that I'm about to do something stupid, but it's happening so fast that I can't change course. And I'll know that I'm going to do the bad thing. I'm going to make the mistake before I've even done it. And I feel like there's not as much as I can do. And since I'm not really practicing well, because I'm really just goofing around most of the time, bad practice makes for bad execution. Well, I think that just means I'm probably I've already seen, my best days, my best Overwatch days are behind me. And that's okay with me. I still really enjoy that game. I just picked up Apex again to play with Mr. Jerp and Odysseus in our community, and I've loved that. I'm just glad that they're okay putting me on their back a little bit. But it is really a decision that I'm having to make where I'm like, if I'm the best that if I've already seen my best, then how do I want to spend my time with these games? Do I stick in the casual mode? Do I tune into the Overwatch League where it literally looks like they're playing a different game than me?
You just sit down with more 60 to 70 hour tactics games. That's all.
Oh my gosh. Well, playing a bunch of those games has made me a lot better at those games. Being bad at XCOM made me better at Baldur's Gate, and that's made me much better at Wasteland 3. So talking about that experience, it does carry through. And the last thing, this is a Polygon article. This is from 2018, so some of the data is going to be outdated. But the title of the article is "What Kind of Gamer Are You?" New report, of course it's 2018, looks into the habits of U.S. gaming types. And this one has lots of awesome data. I'm going to read you some of it. I'm going to try not to read all of it, but it is really interesting to look at. The first thing I'm going to pick out of here is out of 5,000 people who played video games the month the survey was taken, it said 67% of Americans play video games. And they spent an average of $55 on games in the last 6 months, compared to the number Vilos gave us. Yuck, yuck, yuck. A bunch of filthy casuals. That's what they are. This said 34% of people play only on mobile devices. 59% of people use mobile, PC, or console. A smaller 27% use mobile, PC, and console. So that's where I'm at, the 27% there. And they spend an average of 12 hours a week playing games. Whenever I see a stat like that, I wonder, is that the mean or the median? because you know that some people are out here playing 40 hours of games a week, and then some people are only out here playing an hour or two of games. So I always wonder whenever I see a stat like that, I'm like, what does this actually mean?
Yeah, there's
Um,
some really high end numbers, really low end numbers. Like, yeah.
right. But how many people are actually in the middle, and how many people just have such numbers that are such far to the extreme that it skews the data? And then it says the report splits the gaming audience. Oh, let's see, what report is this pulling from? This was from 2018, pulling from a research company called EDAR, EEDAR, and this is all in the U.S. These are all U.S. People they pulled. So this splits them into six sectors. It says there are super gamers, which make up 13% of the gamers here. They are super invested hardcore gamers. So probably those top end. I mean, if I'm guessing, I'd say more than 20 hours a week. I'm pulling that out of thin air, but that's probably what they mean. There are console warriors, which I love that that's a name that they've given these people, that spend much of their time playing multiplayer action games. So, think your Call of Duties and Street Fighter and all that stuff. You have transitionals, 11%, who are adults that have spent their lives gaming, but now have to squeeze gaming into their busy lives. Maybe they're busy with their career, maybe they got kids, maybe they got anything, but they're transitioning from one to another. In the context of our discussion here, they might be turning from gamers into watchers. There are easy accessors, which are 17%. They're young gamers who primarily play whatever they can access. Most often, that means mobile games. And daily dabblers. These are great names, everybody. I love these. Daily dabblers are 19%. They are older gamers who regularly play social or casual games. I would say that casual games would be a lot of single player games, not necessarily just like cozy or games that have the casual title on whatever platform you're buying games on. But I would say casual is just anything that people are going to sit back on their couch playing, right? You got the competitive stance. When people are sitting, they got the controller in their hand on their couch and they're all leaned forward. That's console warrior. But if they're leaned back, that's a daily dabbler, yo. And then the sixth category is an incidental player. 26% of everyone polled, they play mobile games occasionally. So I would call them super
Incidental.
casually. Super casuals. But yeah, that really broke things down in a really easy to digest way that reflects, sometimes when it's like old wives' tales or things that you were taught when you're a kid. You grow up with those stats and you're never really told that they're wrong. I've talked to a lot of people older than me who are taught that you should brush your teeth. There's a real phrase that people used to use all the time that said, brush until you bleed. The idea is like, if you're worried if you're brushing your teeth correctly, just brush them hard. And data would suggest that's a horrible idea. I went to the dentist one time and they were like, yo, your teeth shouldn't look like this for another 20 years. You're brushing too hard. I was like, oh, geez, nobody told me. Gaming data is a lot like that. People will hear something in their teen years and they'll use that data for the rest of their life, and it's just not accurate. I think a lot of data about casual gamers, mobile gamers, and also women in gaming is data that people have a lot of struggle relearning. And even us using the data from 2018 on how many people watch games, that even changed a lot since between 2018 and 2023. So, there's a lot of data here, a lot to understand, and it's always changing. So I would just say that the takeaway from looking at the data is that stuff is always changing. If you want to really know what's going on, then actually go and check out whatever's the most up to date. I think that it's really easy to offer far outdated or incomplete information. I hear a lot of people who I've worked with over the past decade like say just really asinine things about gaming where I'm like, oh geez, I probably know exactly the article that you read 10 years ago that said that stat, you know? But lots of data, lots of stuff there. So if you want to chime in after the show and tell us how you have fared on your gaming journey, you can reach out to us on our socials. You can find all those at partyinvite.games. We'd love to hear, do you watch games more? Do you game more exclusively? Have you never tried watching? Have you never found interested in? Where do you stand? Let us know, and we'd love to revisit that maybe in a later episode. Maybe I'll talk about it on the Blissin' Up next week. But you got to write in. I'd love to hear some submissions.
That's right.
Okay, well, that was a dang topic. There's a lot to talk about. I wish Sid could have been here for it, but you know what? Like Sid and I talked about when you were out, sometimes it gives us the most room to kind of to spread out, to spread our wings here a little bit and go a little nuts. Um, so
There's a little bit of man spreading today, I guess.
a lot. I'd say a lot. But thanks everybody who's joined us live. You can of course find our show on Spotify, on YouTube, and on Anchor. All those you can find through our website, including the video versions. They're all available on all three of those platforms. What else do we have? We have Extra Life Weekend coming up, y'all. We have day 3 and 4. We just came off of Vilos playing 2 days worth of games. You had Exoprimal, Party Animals, Headbangers,
Resident Evil.
Yeah, Resident Evil 5. That was love watching that.
Thirsty Suitors.
Thirsty Suitors, baby. Skating and heartbreaking. Yeah, there's lots of good stuff. And then coming up this weekend, I have 20, that's right, 20 demos that I'm going to choose from to play. People can donate in chat to choose the next game. But I'm going to be starting at noon Central Time on both Saturday and Sunday. That's the 11th and 12th? Yes, it is. 11th and 12th. So I'll be playing in there. I'd love to see some people come in and say hi. Even if you don't donate, I'd love to just hang out, you know. We have 20 different games. Some of them are in early access, but we've got a whole bunch of them. Let me read a few of these to you here. There's a game called Wood and Weather, where it is a casual god sim where you are just a floating hand and you can manipulate items and objects and people, and you can change the weather to affect what's going on in the world. It really reminded me of that game that I can't remember the name of that you played. The punny one that was like, was it Rain on Your Parade?
Yeah.
Is that it? It reminds me of that a lot. Seems cheeky, cozy. I'm excited to play it. That's called Wood and Weather. There's another game called Paper Trail where you fold the edges of a map to get your character to traverse this map that you have laid down to get from point A to point B. That reminds
That's
me
on
of
my wish list.
Yeah, I'm very interested in it. Very chill vibes. Reminded me of Carto. Wait, Carto or
Yeah.
Carta?
It was Carto, yeah.
Carto? Really like that game. I beat it in a couple streams a few years ago. Wonderful, cozy game. Really great things to say about that one. So that's Paper Trail. There's what's this one? Sky Children of the Light, made by the creators of Journey. It is an MMO, which is a funny tag to see on a game like this, but much like Journey, you'll be very casually and probably without nameplates hopping into the broad digital ocean with other people. As soon as you see the trailer for it, you're like, oh, I instantly know this is the Journey people. But chill vibes, really interested in checking that out. There's a game called Sledders. You're straight up just snowmobiling. That's the whole game. And hell yeah. If you've never been snowmobiling before, it's dope. It's totally cooler than skiing. And you can at me on that one. And the last one I'll mention here is called Bits and Bops. Much like Headbangers, but single player only, it's full of rhythm mini games. Lots of good stuff. And after playing Headbangers and how much I enjoyed that, I can't wait for that one. So those are on my list, but those are I maybe read like 5 or 6 of those, and there are 20 of them. So I'm going to have chat choose what I play. I'm going to try to see the end of as many demos as I can, but some of them are varying lengths. And I tell you, it's the Wild West on the Steam demo page, because that thing must be an absolute nightmare to keep updated. But whoa, it was truly wild digging in there. So there are tons of other games. If there's a game that you'd like to see that's not on my list, I would love to check it out. So I'm going to link that in chat and you'll see it on our socials, the doc I've got here that has everything in it. But I am super excited to play all these games. There are so many good demos. They're just, there's not enough time. I think I'm going to have to watch a few of them. That's what it's going to come down to. So if you'd like to watch me play those, tune into the stream this weekend. Other than that, I think that's an episode. Yeah?
Yeah. Sounds good to me.
Well, then I'm your host, Tegan. That's Vilos over there, and we will see you live on Thursday next week. Mm,
Bye.
bye.